Hi, I want to talk to you today about nails. Everybody sort of these days seems to think that you need screws and an impact driver to, to join two pieces of wood together. But they seem to forget about a simple thing called a nail. Whether it's a great big one like that one, or whether it's a tiny little nail like that one. Can you see that there? Nails have their place, even in fine furniture. If you go and look around an antique shop, look at the back of pieces of furniture, take out a drawer and look at how the frame is attached maybe to the top. And if you look closely, you will find nails in expensive furniture. And they have their place. I mean, obviously you don't want to see a nail through the top of a fine walnut dining table or something like that. But there are certain places where a nail is actually better and easier to fit than screws or fancy joinery. And they also allow timber to move a little bit, whereas some fixings are so strong that the wood can't move, and as soon as that happens and the wood can't flex at all, then that's when you get splits. So I thought we'd take a quick look at nails, when to use them, what to use, because the last little project we did, which was the bird box, we nailed that together. And I know that's a simple outdoor thing, but there are other occasions when a nail is very useful. So let's just have a quick look at some of the different kinds of nails. And there are dozens out there. There are specialist nails and what have you, and we're not going to get into a lot of that. But let's just look at a few basic nails that you're likely to come across in any DIY shop or big box store or builder's merchant. There's a couple here. Wire nails. I'll put some shots up on the screen, some close-ups, so you can see what we're talking about. Oval nails. When would you use it? Why would you use an oval nail as opposed to a nail that is round? I know that's a great big one. But there are times when you need both. They both do different jobs. Big nails like this are for heavy, rough work. The sort of thing a builder might use when he's putting in joists or things like that, where he needs a big, strong fixing where two big pieces of timber come together. Now, I know a lot of the time these days, they will use various brackets and things, and they frequently use these tiny nails like this. And they're actually, if you can look very closely there, if I can get it in front of the camera, they've got a twist in them. Can you see that twist? And as these nails go in, they sort of corkscrew round and tighten themselves in, so they won't pull out as easily. They also have some minute little ridges on them that grip the fibres of the timber. And those are very commonly used in construction work. But there are other nails. They're old-fashioned traditional nails. There's a classic one. It's a floorboard nail. And it's flat in that direction. It's a flat piece of steel. But in that direction, it's a wedge with a little sort of head on it just to one side. And we'll look at why you would use that in a floorboard. They fix brilliantly. They're a bugger if you want to try and take them out again. They're really, really difficult to get out. You're far better off with any nail but those when it comes to pulling the floorboards up, if you've got those traditional nails in. Then you've got galvanised nails in all sorts of sizes, literally from far bigger than that one is to tiny little things like that. And then you've got specialist nails. These nails are designed basically for outdoor work. They're used mainly for cladding, which you see quite popular on buildings today. They have what they call it, like a ring shank of focus fitting on it. I'll show a close-up of that as well on screen. And they literally, as they go in the wood, they slide in quite easily, but they will not pull out. Not unless you really have to rip the timber apart to get them out. And then of course you've got specialist nails, for example. If you see any PVC cladding around gutters and things like that, you can get plastic headed nails, so that the nail, although it's on the surface, matches the trim that's been fitted. And they come in different colours as well. And then you've got things like copper nails. They're used mainly for things like fixing slates to roofs. That's a very traditional way of doing it, with copper nails. And then you've got the simple little nails like panel pins, tiny little panel pins. And the thing about panel pins is they're generally used for fixing, say, the backs on, let's say you've built some sort of cabinet, and it's a good way to fix the back in, but they're generally used in combination with glue and things like that, because the heads are so small that they will actually, a panel can actually be pulled off and leaving the pins in. But they are used for delicate work. And they're a good way, if you're gluing something up, to just pin it while the glue sets, because once the glue's got hold of it, then it's not going to go anywhere. So that's the selection of them, but let's just look what happens when we drive the odd nail into a piece of wood. Because sometimes you'll notice when you nail something, the wood will split. What causes that split? And how, more importantly, do we avoid that split? That is a really important thing, is you don't want, you've gone to the trouble of cutting wood, shaping it and finishing it and all the rest of it. And the last thing you need to do is just nail two pieces together to finish it off, and you split the timber. It's infuriating, but there's ways around it. And I'll show you how to avoid some of those pitfalls. But let's first of all look at a couple of traditional nails, what they do and what they don't do. And then we'll look at how to avoid some of these issues with nails. Okay, I'm going to bring the camera down onto the bench, and then we'll work on the bench because I need a solid surface to demonstrate this. But you could have a go for yourself and just use the floor. Basically, you don't need anything other than something solid to nail against. But don't nail directly into the floor. Make sure you've got something underneath. All right, just bear with me a second while I bring the camera down. Okay, I want you to imagine that that's a joist under the floorboards, and this is our floorboard sitting on the joist. I'll prop that end up with a bit of wood. So we've got to nail this floorboard down onto this joist. Now traditionally they would have used, where am I, one of those nails. And if you look at this nail, and I need to get a hammer, these nails were nailed right close to the edge of a board, because the joist probably wasn't quite as thick as this, so they would be nailed there. And these guys didn't bother to drill holes first before they put the nails in. They had to get those floorboards down quick. So the little sort of hook side of the nail would face inwards, and they would... Now, there's something I want to show you about this nail. If you look at that end of it, you'll notice there's no point. It's absolutely flat. And what it's actually doing is punching a hole down. It's not parting the fibres, it's crushing them and punching them down. And you'll notice that there's no sign of a split there, So as I start to nail this down, we're actually into the joist bit now. That is absolutely rock solid. And this wedge, as it goes in, gets tighter and tighter and tighter. So let's take it all the way down. Whoops. Hold that bit back up. And there we go. It's gone right in. I'm going to bring the camera really close in here so you can see exactly what's going on. In fact, I'm going to lift that up. That probably is the easy way to do that. Where's the... There we go. It's not split. That great big nail has not split the timber, even though we're right on the edge. And you can see it there. You can see in the end grain as well. There's no split. So the guys that designed those nails knew exactly what they were doing. And they designed that nail for that purpose. We've used the floorboard nail. That went in the wood fine. But what would happen if you used a round nail instead? Let's bring the camera down and look at the floorboard. In real time, we'll drive another nail in. But we'll make sure that the two nails are exactly the same diameter. Just bear with me while I get the camera down, looking at the board again. Okay, I've got two nails that are as close as I can get to the thickness of each other. And if we measure them, just turn that on, zeroed. That one is 3.4 and this one is 3.7. So within 0.3 of a millimetre between the two. So it's pretty close. So basically I'm going to nail this one in to the floorboard as I did with the other one, and we'll see how we get on. But remember, this one has got a point, which is more of a wedge. So place your bets now as to what you think might happen. Will this nail go in cleanly as the floorboard nail did, or will it split the wood? What's your guess? Well, unfortunately, the camera failed to record me actually knocking a nail in of this size. And they're exactly the same. It's I've not cheated or anything. But believe it or not, I expected that nail to split the board. Turned out, it didn't split the board. Look, it's absolutely fine. It's gone in. The chances are that normally doing that, it would split. So either that piece of wood that I've used thinking it was just a bit of scrap is better than I thought it was, or I got lucky. But anyway, on this occasion, it did work. But if this was a nice piece of furniture and you wanted to ensure that didn't happen and we didn't get a split, because 9 times out of 10, you will get a split. If you drill a little pilot hole first, that is just a tiny bit smaller than the shank of the nail, then you can drive it in and you should be fine. But it just goes to prove, you know, you record something, and it turns out it makes a fool of you. But anyway, there we go. Runs with the grain. If I draw that on the blackboard here, if this is your trim coming down by the side of the door, if this is our door over here, there's your trim going across there. You've got to fix this to a frame, so you use the oval nails in that direction. I'm exaggerating the size of them, and by doing that, those nails can be punched just below the surface. A little bit of fillers put in, rub it down. By the time the trim's painted, those nails have vanished. And that's because they do have quite small heads. Whereas if you look at a nail like this whacking great big thing, it's got a huge round head. There's no way you can drive that far enough in to then fill it on top. Even if you're using the smaller ones, say like that one, that head would still make quite a big hole that would need to be filled. So each nail has a purpose. And as we go through these various projects that we're doing, we will use different nails on different things. But it could just be as simple as a little panel pin. And we're nailing a little thin piece of trim to something. And a panel pin would be absolutely perfect for something like that. Anyway, this is only a short video. There's lots and lots and lots of things about nails, and then fixings and screws and nuts and bolts and all the rest of it. I'm not going to do it all in one session. As we come to different projects, we will look at some of these different fixings. But just be aware that if you're going to start making something straight away, and I'm sure some of you are going to do that, just bear in mind which nails are suitable for which things. And sometimes you will need, if you're right on the edge of a board, and you can drill a little pilot hole, just a fraction smaller than the thickness of the nail, and then your board won't split. It works every time if you do that. Anyway, I'm Dave, I'm the Skint woodworker, and I hope you've enjoyed this. I'll see you soon. Take care now. Bye. Oh, by the way, don't forget, give us a like, subscribe if you can, and ring that notification bell, and the elves back at YouTube will let you know when I upload the next video. Thanks very much for watching. Take care now. Bye.